Hey everyone, it's Patch 3.20 Crucible, and I want to talk about the strategy that I've been doing over the past few days. This strategy has been making me so much money and I've been having a lot of fun with it. And I wanted to share with everyone since a lot of people have been asking what I'm doing. So we have been farming apothecary cards in Crimson Temple. Now you can do this in Defiled Cathedral as well, but I personally have enjoyed Crimson Temple a little bit more. This is something I briefly did at the end of Sanctum, and I farmed a few apothecaries with it, had a lot of fun with it. I thought, why not do it as my main starting strategy for the season? So that's what I've been doing for past few days, and I've been able to hold around 60 to 80 div a day, farming for anywhere between 5 to 8 hours a day. And some days I've even managed to push over 100 div. I think our best day was 140 div in a single day, and that was just a typical 8-hour day, nothing special other than just incredible drops. And all of this is not counting the apothecary. That's all the money we've made just from the raw drops without the apothecary. We've been saving all the apothecaries to be turning Magebloods for our group. It's been going really well and I wanted to share with everyone, so why don't we get into it? First thing we should go over is the passive tree. So the TLDR of this passive tree is going to be altars, strongboxes, harbingers, and then anything else that gives us extra quantity. The name of the game here is to stack as many monsters as we can on our maps and to stack as much quantity as possible to make those monsters give us more raw drops and potentially more apothecaries. The main package here is going to be harbingers and strongboxes. That's why we are starting with Twice Tempted. We're picking up all the small nodes too because they give us a chance for additional packs. And since we're running the monsters are enraged and have 500% increased quantity from strongboxes, these additional packs also get that effect, so we just get more free, really high value monsters. We're pathing through shrines because shrines are super efficient. Not only are they good in a lot of builds, but we also are picking up covetous shrines, which gives us more quantity and rarity, which only makes shrines better than they already are. And we get to have additional packs around them with Drawn to Power, which just gives us even more monsters to kill. We're also going to be picking up harbingers, and we're picking up all 3 harbingers nodes. We're picking up King Harbies since they are amazing to kill. We're picking up an additional harbinger, and we're picking up cooldown recovery for the harbingers, so we get to kill them faster, and a chance for their shards to drop us full items. Personally, out of this node, I've gotten quite a lot of money. I believe I've done about 500 of these maps so far this season. I've seen 4 full fracturing orbs just as a raw drop from Unspeakable Offense. This node is insane. And then we want both sides of it. Top side gives us more harbingers. Bottom side gives us more currency shards. This is a really, really good node since we're having so many harbingers. Additional chance for more currency shards just gives us more chances at fracturing orbs. And we are going to keep pathing. We're going to take secret operations. Now we are not taking tamper proof because it's just a waste of a point. We already are going to be using the compass that gives us additional strong boxes in our maps. So picking this up does nothing for us since that compass also makes all strong boxes corrupt and rare. We do want all the small nodes to give us more chance to open them again. Then in the middle, we're going to be picking up King Harbies, as I mentioned. The altars, we're going to be picking up the whole wheel since the wheel gives us increased quant, and quant is always good. And the 3 nodes in the middle because again, more quant is good. For the strongbox wheel, we're only picking up backup cash for double currency. This is always pretty good. You get to see 2 divs out of the strongboxes pretty often. And Vaults of Mysteries for divination cards. These are not as good, but if you get lucky and you get a good card here, this more than pays for itself. It's just a no-brainer, especially with all of the nodes here being really good. Then, of course, all the glitters for Covenant Shrines. And then we are going to be pathing across the 2 slants to pick up all the map modifier effects. The reason for this is these nodes are really, really good. In our strategy, we're going to be running a mod maps, which are going to have a lot of quantity. So making the map modifier effects be 2% stronger gives us a hell of a lot more quantity on our maps. That is why we're pathing all the way over here to Seance. There really isn't anything else you want in the strategy after picking up most of these nodes. So pathing all the way over here because you're already picking up this node anyway to get free Tormented Spirits, which is just free quant on some rares, and to pick up Unrelenting Torment for even more quant is just a good option as our last few points. Obviously, we're going blue altars. The reason we're not going red is because we are trying to get a lot of duplication chance. We're running a high chance for unique items to drop, and we're running divination cards. And blue altars gives us both divination duplication and it gives us unique duplication. So if this ends up hitting a Mageblood or a Headhunter or a Squire, well, you're really happy. Same if it hits an apothecary. But even if it doesn't hit apothecary, you very often will actually double the good cards in there. You get 7 Years Bad Luck, which is a mirror shard card quite often, and that ends up duplicating quite a bit. So it's just free money. And the rest of the nodes are also pretty good because you can get chance for currency duplication, which is wonderful. That means you sometimes get 2 divs. You sometimes get to see a few X here and there. Blue altars are just more efficient for this. You can go red altars if you really want to, and it'll make you slightly more money per map. But overall, it's less money just due to the raw potential of duplicating a big drop. The last part of the tree is simply going to be taking this gateway because it actually saves 1 point versus pathing normally to this area. We're going to be picking up the delirium nodes. Now, having delirium on your monsters just gives you a free 20% quantity. So we're going to always be putting delirium here on every map to get 20% quant. And then we just want it to take a little bit longer since clearing Crimson Temple is kind of slow. And then we're blocking every single season effects because we don't care about them. We simply just want the chance at extra content, which means chance at extra strongboxes. Let's talk about the setup and what we want on these maps. So for the maps, we're going to be using nothing but corrupted 8-mod maps. These are items they can buy on TFT pretty easily. There's lots of people who sell these for fairly cheap. The only problem with these is they can come with a bunch of bad mods on them. So you might want to look for maps or ask people on TFT to filter them for you to get mods that you can do. For example, for me, I can't do Reflect. I can't do Reduced Aura Effect. So I specifically ask the people who I'm buying them from to give me ones that don't have those things on it. Sometimes I have to pay a little bit more. Sometimes they do it for free, but it is highly worth it. You can farm these yourself if you really want to. And the way you would do that is you would probably drop Delirium, probably drop the Tormented Spirit nodes, and then you would pick up Shaping the Skies, Values, Mountains, and Waters to get as many maps as possible, as well as potentially changing your pathing a little bit to get more map duplication chance. And then instead of running all these compasses, you'd probably just be dropping your maps contain a Mirror of Delirium for maps in your maps that always drop as corrupted 8-mod. So if you always want to have your own map sustain, just simply drop Delirium for that, or you could just simply choose to buy them. Personally, I like to buy them because this is a little bit more profits and then you don't have to pick up the maps. But one benefit of farming your own maps is you can then sell your extras since you'll have way more than you need. And obviously you can't run the brick ones. As for Scarabs, we're going to be running Gilded Reliquary, Gilded Divination, Gilded Harbinger, and Gilded Ambush. Ambush is a must. We are abusing strongboxes, so you want free strongboxes. Harbinger is also a must. It's just so many free monsters, and this more than pays for itself. You get anywhere between 2 to 3 Ancient Orbs and 2 to 3 Annul Orbs per map, and you can easily see about half an Exalted per map. These Scarabs are stupidly cheap. I think it's 1 div per 30, and just from the 4 Harbingers alone, you pretty much get your money back. Gilded Divination, pretty self-explanatory. We're here to farm Apothecaries. We're here to farm all the other high-end cards that drop in Crimson Temple. We have a chance at seeing the Mirror Shard card. We have a chance at getting Zephyri's Heart, which isn't worth as much anymore. We have a chance at Dragon's Heart, and then we also have a chance at the Enlightened card, which are all fairly common to see. And obviously we also have Apothecaries, which we can get from all this, which makes it a no-brainer to add this into every single map. Lastly, the Gilded Reliquary Scarab. So you can swap this out if you are doing Magic Find, since this massively benefits from Magic Find. You are not dropping this. You are going to 100% be running this. But if you're playing solo and if you don't have any sort of Magic Find in your build at all, then you can potentially just drop this for either Abyss to get a little bit more monsters or Breach, or you could potentially run Cartography instead. I would probably just recommend, if you don't want to run Reliquary, to also potentially just drop Mirror of Delirium, run the maps drop as Corrupted 8-mod, and then just run Cartography on top of all of the other nodes on the tree to generate even more maps to sell. As for compasses, we are running maps containing 2 additional strongboxes. They're also corrupted and rare. This is why we don't pick up that node on the tree. We are also running strongboxes are Enraged, 500% more quantity. Now you can use the elevated version of this, which is 16 uses and 600% quantity. But I really don't recommend that unless you're doing this as party play or you're doing this as Magic Find. The price of 600% Enraged is so outlandishly high that unless you are doing something to get even more drops, you're not going to really see returns on this. We're using Mirror of Delirium because it's just a free 20% quantity on every single monster in the map as long as the Delirium is still going. And because these are corrupted maps, we cannot put Delirium orbs on it, so we have to use Mirror of Delirium. And then lastly, we are using the most broken compass in the game, Mysterious Harbinger. Now, this basically adds a Harbinger to your map at the end, and it turns the boss into a Harbinger. So this is effectively 2 additional Harbinger, and every single Harbinger in your map drops additional currency shards. That includes the boss, that includes the free one at the end. This effectively makes it so in your map, you have an additional 4 to 5 Harbingers worth of total loots, which is a massive multiplier considering how many additional Harbingers we are adding onto the map. This lets us see fracturing shards substantially more often. As for the map device, the only thing we want to do is ambush. This is 4 additional strong boxes. It is way too strong to pass on. We're not going to be using quantity. We're not going to be using Fortune Favors the Brave. We just want to put ambush on every single map. It's way too good. And I'm so happy that's in this season. As for our influences, obviously we're going to be running Eater, unless you want to do Searing Exarch, which is slightly more consistent, but I really recommend you do Eater. And then nothing else. We just simply are going to take our Scarabs. We're simply going to be taking our map. We're going to be putting them in here, turning on Eater Worlds, putting on Ambush, and then opening the map. Let's talk about how you're going to be doing the maps themselves. First going to go over how to run a Crimson Temple with Deli, and then we'll talk about the normal strategy. So with Delirium, Crimson Temple is not the greatest map for it. If you don't actually want to do Crimson Temple, I would say to just do Defiled Cathedral with 8 mod maps instead, and you farming your own, as Delirium on Defiled Cathedral is kind of hard to do. You can do it if you're a fast build, but it's really inconsistent and you're not going to be able to get the whole map, where in Crimson Temple, you could always pretty much get the whole map. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to clear everything at the start of the map. It might be tempting to just go down one side of the map all the way to the boss, then backtrack on the other side of the map and clear it that way. But you're really going to have to kind of go zigzag, and you want to finish at the boss and have your whole map cleared by that point. Otherwise, the fog is going to catch up to you. Now, when you kill on Harbinger, it actually freezes the fog for a little bit. And the same goes for strong boxes. But strong boxes give you such a minuscule amount of time, you will not notice it. What you want to do is you want to be chaining Harbingers. You do not gain time while you're fighting them, or you do not pause the fog either. You only get a fog pause as soon as a Harbinger dies, and you get slightly more for King Harbingers. So you want to be fighting Harbingers, but you also want to be clearing everything around them to save yourself as much time as possible. Now, these maps are going to be brutal. They are not easy. If you've never done 8 mod maps before, they are going to destroy you. I would recommend to have a build that has solid defenses for this and decent DPS. Your clear isn't that important because you're not zooming through these maps at insanely fast paces, mostly because the Harbingers are going to take a while. And sometimes you have strong boxes that say guarded by a stream of enemies, which makes it so you can't just instantaneously pop them. But you're still going to want to go decently fast to beat the mirror. But more importantly, you're going to need to have the defenses for this. Every time the altars come up, you always want to pick either div card duplication, first and foremost, quantity, second, as your second most wanted option, and then any of the other duplications as your other options, and then anything to do with Ickers. Because of this, and because you always want to press them, you really need to be ready to deal with what is the downside, since you really just want to click quant every time it shows up. And sometimes it's with some really nasty effects. If you want to do this, I'd really recommend to be 40% overcapped on cold and lightning, as that is the only 2 resistances that altars will destroy. And I would say to either have a build that basically clears a whole screen instantly, kind of like Tornado Shot, or to have a really tanky build such as a stun tech build with Blood Notch, or an Aegis build to be able to take all the hits that you're going to take, because you're going to be taking a lot of hits in these maps. Otherwise, all you're doing is you're just killing all the Harbingers, you're clicking on all the altars, you are trying to click all of these strong boxes while the Delirium fog is still there. If it does catch up to you, try to run forward and just come back and clear the rest of the map after. If the fog has passed something, then that means the 20% quantity is gone. The fog has to be active on the monster that you're fighting to actually benefit from it. One strategy you could do is you can run all the way to the boss and kill the boss first, then backtrack. But the problem is, again, with Delirium, you can't really do that. But if you're just instead not running Delirium and you're just farming 8 mod maps yourself, you can just choose to run all the way to the boss, kill the boss, then clear the rest of the map. That way your altars can never have any boss related effects on them. And that would overall give you slightly more quants and slightly better odds at seeing the duplication altars. These maps take anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how fast your build is, and you can expect to do around 12 of them per hour, maybe around 15 if you're decently fast. So it is a pretty fast mapping method, but is not a super fast mapping method where you're doing 30, 40 maps an hour. Let's go over the profit from running these maps. So I did about 85 of these maps and I kept absolutely everything that showed through my filter in my stash. Now, before doing this, I had absolutely nothing in my stash at all other than a few maps. I've been playing group play this whole season, so all of our stuff has been put into our guild stash. So everything that is in here outside of maybe like one alteration and like 10 transmutes has purely been from just me farming the strategy. As we can see, in terms of currency, you get quite a lot of ancient orbs and quite a lot of annuls. They're basically the same ratio, give or take, as well as quite a lot of other currencies. Now, I played with a pretty strict filter. I didn't really want to see much, so I saw no jewelers. I didn't see any fusings. This is all from just the corrupted 6 links and maybe a few big stacks of fusings. I didn't see any low stacks of chromatics and so on and so forth. I didn't really pick much. I didn't pick up regals. I only put blessed into my filter a little bit into the maps. I didn't see any single stack of scours. The point is, this is the loot from a super, super strict filter at doing this. Now, the only thing that's off is the chaos, because I was simply just using this chaos to sustain the cost of ambush. And in the end, I only had an additional 42 chaos orbs after all of the costs. So that was completely self-sustained. But as we can see, we got quite a lot of just random currency. As for all of the big drops, well, we got quite a lot of maps. Now, I'm including all these unique maps because currently at the time of me doing this at the start of the season, all these maps are worth about 5 chaos each, and they drop pretty often, and they are very much worth selling for an additional little bit of profit. This is a div just in unique maps to sell people, and these sell instantly. You just slap them into a 5C dumb tab. We also got a few miscellaneous cards here. But the biggest chunk of all this is just all the uniques, all the simulacrums, all the deli orbs, and all of the actual cards that we got. So put a few stock decks, put a few random high value cards as well. And for the major ones, we ended up getting 8 enlightened cards. So I was able to make a full enlightened +2. I got 11 7 years bad luck, which is pretty good. I believe this is a little bit over drop rates. We got 4 Dragon's Heart, which I believe is a little bit under drop rates. We also end up getting 4 Seraphots. This was 2 drops of 1 from div card boxes that was duplicated twice, as well as 2 Divine Beauties. I believe this was also a div card box duplication. We got 2 Alluring Bounties. This is also duplicated. A Scout. I think this was from a altar that said drops div cards that are word currency. That's how this ended up being dropped in my maps. A Darker Half. This was from the Delirium Mirrors. These are super rare outside of simulacrums. It's crazy. I only got 1. And we ended up getting 3 Patience. This is from the div cards that award other div cards altar. Whenever you see that one, pick that one up, because that means it'll very often give you at least a Patience, and it'll probably also give you a nurse every now and then. As for other random items, we dropped a Raw Empower, a Raw Enlighten, 2 Reliquary Keys. We end up getting 4 invitations. I think this is slightly off because I was already about halfway through getting an invitation, but it won't really change much in terms of the profits, as well as making quite a lot of simulacrums. We did get a few random uniques here and there. These are worth a little bit more at the start of the season, but as you go later into season, these aren't going to be worth as much as maybe half a div in uniques. And finally, for the items that can't be automatically priced, I had to manually price them. We have 21 random clusters that are worth about 5 chaos each. These can just be thrown into a 5 chaos dump tab and they'll sell instantly. We also have 4 clusters that are worth slightly more. I believe this one's worth about 20C, this one's worth about 10, and then these are both about 20C each. We did end up getting some pretty big uniques. We got a Soul Taker, which is around 6 div. We got a Void Battery, which was worth quite a bit, but now is starting to crash in price. We got Covenants. This was around 3 to 4 div, but it's down to half a div already. We did get an Aegis. the price of this was inted by the Aegis duplication that people were doing with Crucibles. A Healthy Mind, which isn't worth too much, a Quickening Coming, which is about 3 div, a Death Rush, which unfortunately bottom rolled, 2 Taste of Fates, a 7 League Step, and a Ruthlasa, and a bunch of uncorrupted 6 links that are worth about 20 C each. If we want to look at this in PoE Stack after moving everything around and shuffling things, I took a snapshot previously, but this was with it being wrong in some of the prices. For example, saying a Soul Taker is only 2 div when it's 6 div. So I took those items out, but everything that isn't these items that are manually priced, it was 84.8 div across all the items. And then the rest of the money was in here. If we want to look at a notepad in terms of prices for everything, this is what I was paying per map. These are the prices of the Sextants. These are the prices of the Scarabs in div rates, because I really wouldn't bother buying these in chaos rates. I just buy them for a div, as well as the map device and then the price of maps themselves. Honestly, I could take this out, the 4C for the map device, because I self-sustain all the chaos orbs, but we'll just leave it in there for the sake of making things a little bit easier. So it costs to be 99 chaos per map, which we could just round to half a div. Div is currently 200 C per when I record this. And this is the profits. The currency tab is 40 div. The dumb tab, which is all of these, mostly in the cards, is 32 div. The fragment tab is 11.9. That mostly just refers to all of these scarabs I picked up. You get a lot of scarabs doing this. This is about 11.9 div. The miscellaneous items, which is everything in here, is another 13.04 div. So in total, we made 97 div in 85 maps. The profit comes out to 1.14 div per map. And after all the map costs, we made 0.6 div per map. If we were to do this at 12 maps per hour, which is 5 minutes per map, which I would say is honestly underestimating it, because most of the time I actually was going a little bit faster. I would say my average map completion is maybe 4.5 minutes to 4 minutes, really dependent on the layouts. But let's just say 5 minutes per map, which is pretty easy to do. This is 7.6 div per hour. If we want to look at the apothecary chances, now a lot of data has been done on this, and if you're doing full magic find with winged scarabs, you can expect an apothecary every 80 maps. But this is very little magic find / at times no magic find. I sometimes did run with a little bit of magic find. I had a gold rim, I had a divination, and I have 2 rarity called the Brotherhoods. Sometimes I would run these, sometimes I wouldn't. It really depended, but let's just say with no magic find, with gilded scarabs, without winged scarabs, we can assume an apothecary drops about 1 in every 150 maps or so. I believe that's pretty fair, considering I've seen 5 apothecaries now, and I've done about 600, maybe 700 maps this season of this. I think 1 in 150 is pretty accurate for my current setup. So assuming that means we are making an additional 1/4 of a div per map, just in the chance that the apothecary drops. And obviously, you know, if you get lucky, this is a lot more. If it duplicates, it's even more. But when we add that in, it is 1.39 div per map instead of only 1.14. And if we take out the map costs, that means we are making 10.68 div an hour, assuming we are seeing an apothecary every 1 in 150 maps, which I would say is wonderful. If you want the calculation on everything in this tab, this is all of the price that I used. If you're curious about it, I put it in here just for anyone who was going to ask, Allie, where'd you get 13.04 div in miscellaneous items? Here's all the price on everything. I tried to undercut everything. This isn't even overestimating it. So it's actually maybe like a div more than this, but that's not the point. Overall, I would say this farm is pretty good. 11 div an hour almost. Now, the problem with this is the Enraged strongboxes sextant is massively going up in price. It's 140 C per. When I first started this farm, it was around 30 to 40 C, but as more and more people are making farms about Enraged strongboxes this season on various different maps, this has skyrocketed in price. My profit at the start of the season, if you want to do this at the start of the season yourself as well, was actually around 12 to 14 div an hour. And the only reason it's down to about 11 now is simply the Enraged strongboxes. The rest of these have stayed pretty much the same. Scarabs have actually gone a little bit cheaper. It's just the Enraged strongbox sextant is just skyrocketing in price. I would say overall, this farm is pretty fun. It's pretty good. I have been enjoying doing it for 700 maps now, and I think I'll be doing it a little bit more. And it's made me a lot of money. I think so far this season for myself and my group, we've made probably around 4 to 5 mirrors just off of this strategy alone. We're holding about half a mirror per day. On some days, other days, we're maybe making about a third of a mirror, which I would say is not too bad of profits. Last thing I want to mention is obviously if you can fit Magic Find to your build, do it. Magic Find will massively increase your profits here. This is a Magic Find focused playstyle. And if you can play in duo, if you can play a full Magic Find character with an Aura bot, oh, very much do so. With an Aura bot, you can expect to see potentially 13 to 15, maybe a little bit higher div per hour, simply because the Magic Find is going to increase this number so much. I have not seen a single Headhunter. I've not seen a single Mageblood. I've not seen a single Squire yet. We've only seen apothecaries, but with full Magic Find in a duo or more, you're going to massively skyrocket this price. I did see a single apothecary while doing this method, which I'm pretty happy about. We could have seen more, we could have seen less, but overall, making 97 div, not including the apothecary. With the apothecary, it's about 135 div and 85 maps. I would say those are some pretty good profits. That's all I really have to say. This farm has been super fun to do. I've really been happy that this is my starter. If you decide to try this for yourself, I really would like to know how well it goes for you. I'd like to know if your profits are looking about the same. It also really depends on your filter. Like if you are running a less strict filter, I would honestly like to know, see if you're making substantially more money or if it's about the same. And in any case, I just hope you enjoy the strategy. It's very fun. I've enjoyed every day that I've done it so far. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, or please come ask me on Twitch. I stream every single day, except for the next few days where I'm banned because, well, it sucks. But anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to come by on Twitch when I'm unbanned as well. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have. That's all I have for this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.